Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Most of us have realized that food is in shorter supply. It costs more. Some of the items that we may have wanted to have may not be on the shelf anymore, or the prices are becoming prohibitively expensive. People all over the world, not just in the United States, are having to make difficult choices. They're facing challenges of, can I afford the food? Can I afford medicine? And astronomically increasing utility bill. I notice myself, the utility bills have really skyrocketed, and it can be a struggle for many families to try to pay for all of the things that we count on having. If you think you're struggling, here's something you may have not realized. Food banks are also struggling. We can read in the news, food banks are worrying about the impact of inflation in 2023. If we look at what's been happening historically since 2020, and remember when we had all the lockdowns and people couldn't go to work, and so many more people were relying on food pantries at that time, because in 2021, 10% of American households experienced food insecurity. According to Feeding America, over 53 million Americans used food banks in 2021. That is an astronomical amount of people, and it seems to me that 53 million Americans is certainly more than 10% of our population. A Minnesota-based food bank, which usually spends $50,000 to purchase 400 pounds of food, spent double that amount in 2022. In Philadelphia, the Norristown Food Pantry used to assist 350 families, and now that has doubled in only a year. Now, we know that many people are struggling, but are you aware at the astronomical amount of people that are forced to rely on food from charities, from food banks, from churches? They need a handout because they can't afford to get the things that they need. Even in Europe, for example, 1/3 of German food banks have stopped accepting new applications for assistance. There are so many families that already require help, they don't have the resources to continue to help more. So what does that say about us in the future? Making sure we can provide for ourselves and our families. You need to think of yourself as your own personal food bank. You have your own food bank prepper, pantry, food stockpile. So then if hard times come, or harder times, then you still are going to be able to feed your family. Do you really want to go out hunting for a food charity that is going to still have enough that can have some for you? And I've read in the news that many of the charitable organizations can't accept new families or are unable to continue to give the same amount of food, that they're being forced to give out, instead of once a week, once every other week, and that there are still families at the end of the line on every day that they have their charitable giveaways, that they don't have enough to give to all of the families that come there in need. Now, I don't know about you, but I want to make sure that I have enough so I can take care of my family. If you need to go to a food bank, absolutely do. But if you still have the resources to gather supplies for yourself, make sure that you're doing it. If you are blessed and you have some foods that perhaps they're not expired, but you don't intend to eat them, this would be a good time to donate to a local food charity if you can. Also be aware that you don't have to just look for giant organizations. Sometimes neighborhood churches and even in libraries, they will have some food that you can come and get some if you really are in need. Food banks, just like families, are struggling. Food banks get lessons in economics, more demand, less supply, higher prices. This is going on everywhere. The struggles are a result of the perfect storm. And even though this was discussing what's going on before the holidays, you have to remember that people are more likely to be in a giving mood during the holidays, and that drops off. And here we are post-holiday, when not only are people's bills rolling in that they may be charged too much at Christmas, and now winter heating bills are coming in, prices are rising, there are less resources at food banks, and so the struggle is real. Inflation is at a 40-year high. And Phoenix posts the highest inflation rate in the nation at 12.1%. So yes, luckily we've seen the price of gasoline go down, but hopefully you realize that it's still higher than it used to be, and it could shoot back up at any time. For you to say, well, I'm just waiting until things become affordable again, you could miss the boat for having the opportunity to stockpile on the things that you need. Every dollar of extra food that you can put away now, the way I look at it, is an extra meal that I can provide for my family in the future. I see it as my job to be able to provide for myself and my family members when they need help. And so that's how I look at it, that it's my responsibility to take care of myself. I need to make sure that I have enough going forward so I don't have to worry about there's nothing to eat in the house, the food banks are empty, the stores are unaffordable. No one wants to wake up one day and that's the reality, but that could be what's coming for many of us, and so we need to make sure that we're doing what we can while we can. So yes, prices are up, but food is still available. And the way I look at it, one of my strategies is if I go to the store and I can't find what I want, then I find something that I can substitute. So I'm still continuing to grow my stockpile. If I can't find something that's on my list, I look for something that can substitute, or even something that's on sale or there's extra of that would be an additional something that I would like to have. Just realize more and more people are turning to food banks, while the food banks have less and less available to help other people. So the day is likely, Teddy. So the day is coming that you're not going to have anyone else you can rely on, and it's your self-reliance. Make sure that you are thinking about how can you use the food you have, how can you make it last the longest, what can you do to supplement the food that you do have. Can you grow a garden? Have you made any plans, gathered any seeds, thought about what you can do when the spring planting comes and the summertime is here? You can also look into things like foraging. There are ways that we can provide for ourselves, and we need to make sure that we do that. You also need to look around, make sure that your friends and family are not hurting and they're too embarrassed to tell you. And if you are struggling, please reach out, because people care about each other. And this is a great time to be building a community. Figure out who can you rely on, who is there for you, and who do you want to know that they can rely on you. We need to build a community of like-minded people, figure out who we can trust, and then be able to lean on each other. Struggles are real, and they seem to be compounding as we go through time. So while nobody wants to think about an uncertain future that might be scary, we need to be able to figure out how to make the best of every single day that we have. That's why I'm a prepper. I want every day to go as smoothly and good as possible. And we can still do that if we prepare and we plan, and then we figure out who is there for us and who we can be there for too. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel. Oh, Teddy, when did you become such a little baby scaredy cat?